Hi class. This video is going to teach you about the standard form for the equation of a line. So this equation is a little unusual, but it's actually really helpful sometimes. Standard form is going to look a little like this. AX plus BY equals C. So it's not y equals mx plus b. Okay. There's going to be a coefficient in front of the x term, a coefficient in front of the y term, and then there's your constant. That's just a number. Okay, here's an example of one. 2x plus 3y equals 6, something like that. Okay, so here's some notes. The x and the y terms, so those are the two terms that have the x and the y variable, they should be on the left side of the equation. Okay. And then the constant, or the number, is going to be over there. So this is called constant. C for constant. Okay. And no fractions are allowed. So if you have a fraction, we might have to eliminate it by multiplying through by a number. Okay. This form is very helpful. Let's just box it up. When we're going to be graphing with the technique of intercepts. So when we're graphing a line and it's in this form, we're going to use 2 points. The x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay. So instead of doing slope and rise and run and rise and run, we're just going to do 2 points. That's it, 2 points, but 2 very special points. Okay, so let's just make sure everyone knows what we're talking about here. An x-intercept is the location. It's actually a point. It's a point where the graph crosses the x-axis. Take a look at this line right here. This is the x-axis, the horizontal one, and this is the line. And this point right here is where the line touches the x-axis. This is the point 1, 2, 3, 0. So the line is going to touch the x-axis, usually, okay, somewhere in 1 point. It could touch here, it could touch here, but the y-coordinate is always 0. And the x-coordinate has the value. So when it's an x-intercept, we're going to have a number and then 0. The x value gets a number. Similarly, we could have a y-intercept. Okay, so when you have a y-intercept, that's the point where the graph crosses the y-axis. The y-axis is the vertical one. Does this line touch the axis? Yep, right here at 1, 2. So this is the point 0, 2. It could touch here at 0, 5, anywhere on the y-axis. But do you notice what the x number is now? The x-coordinate is always 0. And then the y-intercept is going to have the number in the y place, 0, number. So knowing that the x or the y is zeroed out and leaves us with just a number is a technique we're going to use when finding the intercepts. Well, let's go ahead and fill in the blanks over here. So the x-intercept, where it touched the x-axis, was 3, 0. And the y-intercept, this point right here, is 0, 2. All right, you could have negative values, but the x-intercept has the number in the x place, and the y-intercept has it in the y place. And the other number is always 0. So that's really cool, and it makes our calculations actually pretty easy. Okay, let's take a look at a couple graphs here. The x-intercept, here's the x-axis. Does this line touch the axis? Yes, it does, right there. Okay, 1 unit to the right. So when you have an x-intercept, it's going to be 1, 0. Does it have a y-intercept? Here's the y-axis. Where does the line touch the y-axis? Right here at this point. I like to highlight it. And then I ask myself, what are the coordinates of that point? 0, -2. Since it's a y-intercept, the number goes in the y place. That's kind of like the starting point, right? the y-intercept. There's lots of ways of thinking about this. The y-intercept is the b value, or the y-intercept. We've studied y-intercept before, but now we're going to add x-intercept. Okay? We could have a line like this. The x-axis right here, it's touching at the coordinates 1, 0. And how about a y-intercept? Does it touch the y-axis? Right there at 0, 3. Okay? So this should be pretty straightforward, and this is easy. Students like this a lot. Finding it algebraically, okay, might be a little new. Find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay, so here's the technique for that. When you want to find an x-intercept, you can even come look up here at some x-intercept examples. There's going to be a number that we're trying to find. But what's the y value? The y value is always 0. So to find an x-intercept, we make y equal to 0. Okay, so let's do that. We have the equation 2x plus 7y equals 28. And what we're going to do is we're going to make the y number equal a 0. We're going to plug 0 in so we can find just the x value. 2x plus 7 times 0. 7 times 0 is 0, and that's going to cancel out. 2x is 28. Let's divide both sides by 2, and the x value is 14. Okay, so the x-intercept, I just found it, is the point 14, what's the y value? Oh yeah, it's got to be 0. The x-intercept always has a y value of 0. Okay. How do you think we're going to find a y-intercept? To find a y-intercept, we make x equal nothing, and then we can find the y number. So let's write down the equation. 2x plus 7y is 28. And if we're trying to find the y number, we're going to zero out the x number. So x, you're going to become 0 so that I can calculate the y-intercept. So we're going to go ahead and make that cancel out. That's 0. 7y equals 28. Do you know why I don't write 0? Because it's gone, it's canceled. I simply divide both sides by 7, and the y number is 4. So what's the y-intercept? 0, 4. I think the trickiest part is making sure we put them into the correct place. The y-intercept, you put the number there, the starting point, in the y place. And for an x-intercept, make sure you put the value into the x place. All right, now instead of writing all this, sometimes people use the shortcut. Since we're going to let something equal 0, and it's going to cancel out, people just cover it up with their finger. What? Yeah, if I make y equals 0, which is nothing, 7 times 0, that's going to go away. And then I can just think about the other two. And I can divide in my mind. I'm going to show you the shortcut method, but if it turns out this is confusing or you don't like it, you don't have to do it the fast way. Okay, maybe what I'll do is get these problems all set up. So at x-intercept, we're going to let y equal 0. So let's look at this problem. I need you to zero out the y. So you take your finger and you cover up the y. And I see 3x equals 6. 3x equals 6. I divide both sides by 3. Can you tell me the x number? 2. Well, that was easy. I zeroed out the y, and I was able to think about the x. Let's take a look at the y-intercept. For the y-intercept, I'm going to zero out x. X, I'm going to zero you out. Can anyone tell me what the y value would needs to be? Yeah, 3. 3. 2 times y equals 6. Divide by 2 and you get a 3. This is going to be really fun. Let's try it again. There could be negative signs, so be careful that you look in front of the number for those negative signs. Zoom in a little bit here. People can see. Okay, to find an x-intercept, who do we zero out? We zero out the y, because we're going for x. Okay, y, let me just cancel you out. You and your coefficient. And then I have 4x equals 10. And then when I divide both sides by 4, that doesn't divide evenly, so you can make that be a simplified fraction. You could say 5 halves. You could also say 2.5 if you're using your calculator. Either way is correct, 5 halves, or you could say 2.5. Okay. Let's try again. Let's go for the y-intercept. If you're going for y, who do you cover up? You cover up x. Okay, x, you, and your 4 go away. Now don't cover up the negative sign because that belongs to the negative 2 and the y. And then I would divide both sides by negative 2. And what's the y number going to be? Negative 5. If you don't like this, you could always plug in 0. 4 times 0 minus 2y is 10. That cancels out, and you're going to get the same thing, except instead of covering it up, you're actually using your pencil to cancel it out. And then you're going to, I'm sorry, this is a positive 10. Divide both sides by negative 2, and you're going to get a negative 5 either way. Okay, let's do the last one. To find an x-intercept, we're going to cancel out or zero out the y number. So let's zero out the y number. Okay. Sometimes just writing a little bit helps people. So if the 5 and the y are gone, that leaves me with negative 3x equals negative 15. If you could just do it by looking, then go ahead. We're going to divide both sides by negative 3. And x is 5. X is 5. Or maybe you just look here and you know it's 5. And how about the y-intercept? To find a y-intercept, I will zero out the x. That leaves us with this. Can you tell me? Make sure you look here at the positive sign. What's the y number going to be? If you need to write down positive 5y equals negative 15 and divide by 5 this way, you're going to get negative 3 either way. If you can handle it with just covering it up and then dividing in your mind, then go ahead and do that. You just got to get these answers right. Okay. All right, let's turn the page. Why are we finding intercepts? Really, so that we can do a good job of graphing the line. Okay, so take a look at how easy graphing is when you use the intercept method. So find the intercepts of the graph, okay, and then graph the equation. And I notice right here that this is linear, so it's going to be a straight line. Okay, let's do x-intercept first. Find the x number by zeroing out the y. Oh, this one's easy. Can anyone tell me what x is going to be? Yes, a 4. Okay, now we're going to find the y-intercept by covering up the x. If x is 0, if he's nothing, what's the y number? Yeah, 2. Okay, now we're going to graph those two intercepts. So the x-intercept, if you go to the x-axis, needs to touch at 4, 0. You need to put a point on this x-axis, and here it is. There is the x-intercept. Okay, how about the y-intercept? On the y-axis, and here's a little reminder, okay, the y-axis, we need to touch at positive 2, 1, 2. It's kind of like the starting point. And then you take your ruler and you draw a nice straight line between those two intercepts. Don't forget your arrows. That's it. This is how you graph using intercepts. People love this technique. It's really the best when you have standard form. because finding intercepts is easy with standard form. It's not so easy when you have y equals mx plus b, but that was a different technique that we already studied. Let's do our last one here. Let's be super careful with these negatives. To find an x-intercept, we're going to zero out the y. I'm going to divide both sides by -2, and that makes -1. So on the x-axis, we need to touch at -1, comma 0. So there's the point that touches the x-axis. There's the x-intercept. All right, let's find the other one. To find a y-intercept, you zero out the x. I'm going to divide by -2. Divide by -2, and y is -1. But see how they're in different places? This is in the y spot. So on the y-axis, make sure you touch at -1, okay? And there's the line. There's the line, just like that, okay? Y-intercept. I hope you guys like standard form and you're really great at finding x and y intercepts. Thanks for watching.